Okay, what we're doing this afternoon is what we call dissociative exercise that trains the core how to control the shape of the body as we reach our limbs. That's the arms and legs, and this is beneficial for performance and safety in lots of the sports that we do, cycling, running, ball sports, but also for daily life. The ability to use the core to coordinate the upper and lower body is very important for the health of the spine, and gives us that sense of connectedness with all our motions, so we're not overworking the shoulders and the knees. These exercises are based on what I learned in a course taught by Stephen Much and Alan McComb, and they're two Scottish physical therapists. Alan McComb is the physical therapist for Lille Metropolitan, and Stephen Much is the physical therapist for Scottish Rugby Union. So we're going to start from the top. And our first order of business is, we all know how to do a squat normally, but what we're going to do is an L squat. So we're placing the heels at a 90-degree angle to each other, fairly close together, about hip width apart, and then we're squatting down. Okay. And so the task, when we teach all these exercises, we don't want to overteach it. We just give the patient a simple command. We'll say, put your feet in L position and squat as low as you can. And if they are tipping forward, you try to give them an external cue, such as try to keep looking straight ahead as you go lower. So, and after you do these exercises, you might try something like a forward fold to see how it affects the flexibility. So, okay, this first time we do it, you get to right about here, and I start to feel tight. As we move through some of these other exercises, we'll see how that changes. Next exercise, we take some green TheraBand, we tie a knot. Okay, we have it between the hands. This will probably be the hardest thing I do today. Oh, don't edit this out. This is gold. Okay. Now, you got your knot. So our first exercise, we're stepping forward, rotating, stepping back. So that's the first iteration. And you tell the patient, just try to make your steps as smooth and quiet as possible. Because if they're stepping way out and they have to slam down, then they're not controlling the movement. They're not able to they're able to get the movement done. But we're just looking for those external cues that really help them tap into the quality as well. So the second iteration is we step forward, we rotate towards the inside. And these are also great for geriatric patients, given that they can do this without support. This is what the football clubs do for rehabilitation for knee and groin injuries, because there's just so much going on to coordinate with the center. Next iteration is we actually start to step and lunge and rotate. And again, if that person is going out too far, they're going to know it, because they're going to have to really struggle to get back. So, and the iteration after that is we're stepping, we're lunging, we're rotating the torso, or we're keeping the heads looking straight forward. Okay, the next iteration is We're going to keep the head looking. We're going to let the head rotate with the body, or we're going to close the eyes. Okay. And then most difficult one is keep looking straight ahead with eyes closed as the torso rotates. So this is what we're talking about, dissociation. All the components of the torso and limbs, they're broken up. So instead of bracing the body, we're putting the body in a circumstance that's appropriately unstable and giving it the opportunity to learn to move smoothly and powerfully without falling over. So here we go. See, I messed up. So it's okay. So we'll leave that. So these next items are great ways to teach posterior pelvic tilt, which is important for patients with chronic low back pain or difficulty with using the abdominals. So instead of say starting with an exercise that might be all fine and good, such as a supine pelvic tilts, we're going to teach them how to do it basically with a more complete movement standing up. So over here on the wall, in about a 45-degree angle relative to the wall, we're pressing up onto the ball of the foot as we're trying to knee towards the wall and back down. So we're alternating, and as we're coming up on the ball of the foot, if that person is really coming up high enough, their posterior chain is going to become involved as a function of the exercise itself. So another great one, just to get some dissociation between the right and left side. One side is extending, the other side is flexing. Okay, next item in business, very similar, but now we get some abduction and external rotation. Okay, so 2 quick and easy exercises. It takes care of a lot. Next item we'll try here. Again, this band is here to get the trunk muscles activated. So you have the person up against the wall because it'll help with their confidence. So they know if they are going to fall or just going to fall back to the wall. So reaching up, and up on the ball of the foot. So this gets posterior chain through the standing leg and the hip flexors and front of the core with the leg that's coming up into flexion. And also you can work in a little bit of protraction on the same side that you're reaching with the leg. You just have you cue the person move as smoothly and quietly as you can. Okay. So we can also work this into some traveling forward. This will add a different difficulty component to it. So that's that. So these are all great exercises to work into your warm-up for general low back pain patients, people with patellofemoral pain, because it's, I guess, instead of focusing on the knees themselves, they're just getting the whole body involved, or moving the knees, or stabilizing in the posterior chain and the entire connection between the upper and lower body. So moving next to the ground, we're going to have the client do some crawling, and so there's been a lot of talk about crawling, the last few years that I've been aware of, and it's all great. But maybe one thing that I learned from this course is that I'm teaching too much. Try to make it all about external cues that the person can keep coming back to, instead of having them rely on you to watch for their perfect form. We just give them two simple cues. Number one is, as we're crawling, try to have them brush the grass with their knees. So they can't bring the knees up too high. So they've got to brush the grass with the knees. And the other cue is you have them pretend like there's a glass of water on their back, they don't want to spill it. And what I do sometimes, if the person's having difficulty, just put a glass of water on their back and see if it's spilling, right? They won't want to do that. So we lift up, and this with those two cues. And just also tell them where to move. Move to the blue bolster, move to the wall behind you. So you start with simple cues of moving from point A to point B. And then getting more difficult, we can tell them move as fast as you can. Try to beat somebody else. If it's a competition, if you have a couple teammates around, you can make a race out of it, a competition. You can set up obstacles, have them basically crawl, have them turn when they get to the obstacle, go sideways, change directions and go backwards, all while keeping those two performance cues. So that's really good for teaching the arms and legs to work together, gives great range of motion, and it's a great warm-up for the whole body. Next sign of business is for taking care of the stiffness that many of us have in the thoracic spine. So we keep in the sideline position, keep the knees together, keep the fingers at the same distance from the shoulders, keep the neck at a neutral position, and then you follow the arm opening up with the eyes. And the one performance cue here is notice that at a certain point, if you're stiff, your knees will start to open up, and that's the point with which you want to stop. And just have them keep working on that. And if they keep the attention on the knees, they'll notice that there'll be a point at which they start to get stiff. So after a few of these exercises, you get the person to retest, how far down can you go? Without forcing it, I can get, about that much lower, just after a few silly exercises. So, these things work. I think the last category of exercise that works best if you have more of a sports team setting where you have people with similar physical abilities around, is using things like hacky sacks and these knobbed balls, and sorts of like competitive warm-up where you make a game out of trying to keep the ball in the air, try to use certain parts of the body, have the team members call out. And the benefits of these exercises is that it's getting all of the aspects that we're trying to train into their athletic program, and they're doing it in a fun and competitive atmosphere, and it just gets them more involved in the rehabilitation process, and makes it fun, because maybe one failure that the professors identified is that even elite athletes, they really want to focus on playing. They don't want to focus on rehab exercises that aren't directly related to the sport they want to return to. So I guess in closing, if we focus on external cues with everything we do, whether it's simple leg lift exercise that we all might do for back pain, or some of these more complicated seeming exercises, making it simple for the client to remember the cues they're looking for, and breaking up the body. So looking for these dissociative aspects instead of racing the core and then moving. Try just moving smoothly and keeping your balance, not falling over. So keep it simple, and we'll see you next time.